The Democratic Republic of the Congo, often called DR Congo, is making headlines for all the wrong reasons. Let's begin with the map. DR Congo sits in the heart of Central Africa. It borders 9 countries and is Africa's second largest nation by land area. More than 100 million people live here. DR Congo is incredibly rich in natural resources: cobalt, copper, gold, coltan, minerals that power smartphones, electric vehicles, and global industries are all found here. And yet, despite this wealth, most people live in poverty. For decades, conflict, weak governance, and foreign interference have kept the country unstable. And nowhere is this more visible than in the eastern part of the country. So what's happening right now? In recent weeks, hundreds of families have fled villages near the town of Uvira in eastern DR Congo. Carrying whatever they could, like bags, mattresses, even livestock, they moved along National Road 5, trying to escape fighting between the Congolese army and the M23 rebel group. The army says it has retaken several villages after intense clashes. But even as government forces claim gains, civilians continue to pour into nearby towns, searching for safety. This is not an isolated episode. It is part of a much larger humanitarian emergency unfolding across eastern Congo. In the city of Goma, thousands gathered recently in a stadium for a mass funeral. 22 coffins were lined up in public view. These were victims of clashes between M23 rebels and the Congolese army. Families wept as officials laid wreaths and flowers. Local authorities said these deaths were only a fraction of what communities have suffered. Just listen to him.
My cousin was killed in Masisi because of the armed conflict between M23 and the Congolese government. There was a bombing there and she was killed. If there was no war, all this wouldn't have happened. I can't take sides on both sides. They are all responsible.
That sense of helplessness explains why so many people are fleeing, even when the fighting shifts from one area to another. Now let's understand who is fighting whom. At the center of the current violence is the M23 rebel group, formerly known as the March 23 movement. It is made up largely of ethnic Tutsi fighters and first emerged over a decade ago. After being defeated in 2013, M23 resurfaced in 2021 and has since captured large parts of North Kivu and South Kivu provinces. The Congolese government and the United Nations say M23 is backed by neighboring Rwanda. Rwanda strongly denies this. But the allegation has fueled regional tensions and complicated peace efforts. M23 is not the only armed group in eastern Congo. Dozens operate here. Another major group is the Allied Democratic Forces, or ADF, which has links to the Islamic State. The Congolese army is fighting multiple enemies at once, while also struggling with poor resources, weak discipline, and internal corruption. But this is not a single war. It is a series of overlapping battles involving the state, rebel movements, foreign interests, and local militias. So what is the core issue? At its heart, the crisis in eastern DR Congo is about control. Control over land, people, and resources. The region is mineral rich, and armed groups often fund themselves through illegal mining and taxation. Ethnic tensions, many dating back to the Rwandan genocide of 1994, have never been fully resolved. And weak state institutions mean the government struggles to protect civilians or enforce the rule of law. Each time a rebel group captures territory, civilians pay the price. The violence has forced hundreds of thousands of people from their homes in just the past few years. When fighting breaks out, villages are bombed, looted, or occupied. People flee, not knowing if they will ever return. Even when the army retakes areas, insecurity remains. Armed groups often melt into forests or return later. That's why families continue to flee toward towns like Uvira and Goma despite overcrowding and a lack of basic services. Displacement camps are stretched beyond capacity. Food is scarce, clean water and healthcare are limited. And for many women and girls, displacement brings another darker danger. Eastern DR Congo has long been one of the most dangerous places in the world for women during conflict, and the situation has worsened sharply. The United Nations reports more than 80,000 cases of rape in Eastern Congo between January and September 2025. It's a dramatic increase from the previous year. Human rights groups say this surge is driven by expanding conflict and collapsing support systems. Sexual violence is being committed by multiple actors: M23 fighters, ADF militants, other armed groups, and even Congolese soldiers who are meant to protect civilians. Women and girls are attacked during village raids, while working in fields, while traveling, or after being abducted and held in camps. Some are taken as sexual slaves. Others are raped in front of their families as a form of terror. For many survivors, the violence begins early and leaves lasting scars.
I was 13 years old when the rape happened, and today I'm 14. On my way back from school, my aunt sent me to fetch vegetables from the field. I was alone when I met a stranger who raped me and fled. When I returned, I told my parents, who took me for treatment. I was treated and then returned home. After the rape, I had severe stomach pain, and when I was given medication, it relieved me a little.
Her story reflects a wider reality. In many conflict-ridden areas, access to care is limited or non-existent. In M23 controlled zones, hospitals and clinics have shut down. Major airports are closed, cutting off humanitarian access. At the same time, international aid has dropped sharply. In early 2025, sudden cuts to the US-funded programs halted emergency health care across much of eastern Congo. Clinics ran out of post-exposure prophylactic kits. These are the medicines that must be given within 72 hours to prevent HIV infection and pregnancy after rape. As a result, many survivors are left with lifelong consequences simply because help did not arrive in time. And even when survivors do seek help, justice is often out of reach. Rape in war is a crime under international law. Survivors have the right to health care and justice. But in Eastern Congo, accountability is rare. In areas controlled by armed groups like M23, Congolese courts do not function. Many survivors do not know how to file complaints, cannot identify their attackers, or simply do not trust the system.
Lorsque les femmes sont violées par surtout les miliciens,
When women are raped, especially by militiamen, most do not know the perpetrator or did not know him before. They will only say that they were raped by a man from such and such a militia, but cannot go further. At that stage, it already takes great courage for survivors to report a militiaman. because they fear reprisals that may follow complaints or legal action.
après les plaintes ou les démarches judiciaires.
Even when cases do reach the courts, the process itself becomes another obstacle. Investigations are slow, underfunded, and often delayed by ongoing fighting.
Par exemple, les approches coutumières qui préfèrent
There are, for example, customary approaches that prefer amicable settlements, while others choose not to pursue cases at all because of extreme delays. The law says it should take 4 months for a sexual violence case, 1 month of investigation, and 3 months before the court. But in practice, it can take far longer than the 4 months provided for.
plus que les 4 mois prévus.
So, for many survivors, justice remains a distant hope. And until armed groups are held accountable, humanitarian access is restored, and long term political solutions take shape, the crisis in eastern DR Congo is likely to continue. And millions of lives will keep being devastated quietly, far from the world's spotlight. That's all in this edition of Connecting the Dots. We will see you in the next episode with more raging issues. Until then, it's a goodbye from all of us in the Delhi newsroom. This is Mumnun Bhattacharya signing off. Take care and stay safe.